in paradise.
She exemplifies a story of going from tragedy to triumph. Sherrell Duncan has an interesting story of hitting rock bottom to coming to a point where she became the head of her own fitness brand. She sits here as a champion, and I'm so excited that she's decided to sit down with us in the Jenleeion circle to talk to us about her story from tragedy to triumph. First of all, Sherrell, thank you for being here. How are you?
That was the dopest intro I've ever had. I need you to do that for me all of the time. I am wonderful after that intro. Can I hire you to go with me to do that everywhere I go? Seriously.
Thank you. I'm completely humbled by that. But I tell the truth, right?
Yeah.
In the fact that I say, because one of the things we celebrate at Jenleeion is tragedy to triumph, right?
Yeah.
And going all the way back, before we get into a particular point at tragedy, because I think that life can be full of a lot of points of lows, right?
Yeah.
There's an interesting story that going all the way back to 9 years old.
Yeah.
There was a heroin addict in your family. It's an interesting thing that God can use the least likeliest people to affect your life,
Yeah.
or to give you advice. And there's actually a person in your family that gave you a statement that actually set you up for how you would get out of the tragedies that you experienced later in life. Take us to that aunt and what she said to you.
She was afraid of nothing. She was so bold and so courageous, and she always voiced how she felt all the time, no matter what room she was in. And I remember a particular incident. We were out somewhere, and I told her, I'm like, I'm so scared. I don't want to go in there. And she grabbed my face on both sides and said, you are not going to be scared of nothing or nobody. Do you understand that? And that thing stuck with me in my gut, in my soul, in my spirit. And I forget names, I forget people, I forget a lot of things, but I'll never forget that. I was 9 years old when that happened. And so that stuck with me through everything. It helped me to be bold and courageous in telling my story, no matter what that story looks like.
And I think that's beautiful, because one of the things that you can control your narrative, right, if you tell your own story.
Yeah.
And that's exactly why we're excited that you're here. In 2013, Sherrell hit rock bottom. After experiencing postpartum depression, she was in a situation where alcoholism and overeating owned her life. But at some point, she turned it around. Now, I want to go back directly to 2013, right? We call that rock bottom, right? But obviously, there's a happier point that comes after it. How low were you, and what got you there?
Oh God, now I'm gonna cry. I was really low. I've always been a social media person, always on social media, posting on social media. However, I had gotten so big after I had my baby, and I had my baby in 2010. But for the next 2 years after 2010, I would find myself drinking excessively, a bottle of vodka a day, every day, drinking on my way to work, drinking on my lunch break, drinking on my way home, drinking when I got home, and eating crazy. So it was an emotional attachment to food and to alcohol. And because my family, there's addiction in my family, I have to be very careful about the things that I indulge in. So at that time, I wasn't in a really good relationship with my child's father. And it just led to unhealthy habits, drinking every day, getting so big. And one day I was at work and I passed out at work. And I had to be rushed to the hospital. I was actually in Baltimore. The doctor told me that if I wanted to live, then I had to stop immediately. I had to stop drinking and eating immediately. I was extremely dehydrated. I had some heart palpitations going on. It was just a bad situation.
Now, it's interesting that when we look at addiction, that ubiquitously, and this is the saying that it can't happen, but commonly people usually have one demon, right?
Yeah.
But you actually were facing both food and alcoholism.
Yes.
What do you think was the biggest thing that you were trying to drown out, or was it just the familial addiction that runs in your family?
That's a great question. I think it was both, right? I think that glutton spirit that I held on for so long was me feeling like a failure. You know, like I failed my business. I lost my business. Now I have a baby. I always envisioned myself single and traveling the world, but now I have a child. And I have a child now, and I don't have a stable household. I'm living in someone's basement. It's mildew everywhere. I got a baby with me. I don't have a car. I don't have my business. You know, I don't have a job at that time. And so it was so, I felt like a failure. I was embarrassed. I didn't feel like a leader anymore. I didn't feel like I was on my assignment anymore. And so I just tried to drown out all of those feelings, right? And I even tried to take my life twice. You know, and so it was a really bad breaking point for me. And so I know it had a lot to do with the addiction that runs in my family, but also my own things that I put on myself.
And that speaks to me, obviously, because I've dealt with similar tragedies in my own life, including the road of, you know, wanting to commit suicide because of what's going on around you. Yeah. One of the naysayers in your life was the relationships you were in. Right? Before we move on to the next level of your journey, right? To what degree did that affect you? Was it verbal abuse? Was it physical? Or was it just a situation where you guys just weren't healthy, period?
So with my child's father, there was never physical abuse or anything like that. It even started before him. You know, I think my relationships, period, with men before my husband were detrimental to my spirit, right? I dealt with a lot of narcissistic men, manipulative men that played on my vulnerability at that time. And it piled up. You know how we think we suppress certain things, but then you get triggered and it's like, holy, what is happening? Why do I feel this way?
I didn't care about that before, but wait a minute, I do care about it.
Yes, I care about it a whole lot now, right? So it's insane how everything that happened to me leading up to the relationship with my child's father, because I don't want to just say that it was him, because we both, you know, we had our stuff, but before him, it was mental abuse, it was verbal abuse, it was emotional abuse. The guy before him locked me in the basement for days. And I didn't have to be there. I put myself in that position. Wow. So I don't want people to think that, you know, that was on me, right? I didn't have to be in that relationship. But something in me chose to be there. And because I chose to be there, I got all this emotional trauma, all this mental trauma, all this spiritual trauma, making me feel like I'm somebody that I'm not. Baggage. You know, just so much baggage that I was taking on their demons. So remember you said the demons? So not only did I have my own, but I was nurturing and caring for someone else's demons, which in turn made me resort to alcohol, like so much, resort to food. And it was a bad situation, a really bad situation.
You gave an example of to what degree the food did become one of the demons that I think at some point, and this is just an anecdotal example, that you could polish off a 12-inch sub and pizza and wings and go home and still eat a big dinner. Now that resonates with me because, you know, when I was in college, right, I faced depression so much so that I could, a large sheet cake, I could polish that off in 2 days by myself. You know what I mean? So I know what that looks like. Obviously, we're here to talk about Sherrell's triumph. When she did pass out at work and went to the hospital, her organs were shutting down. And here's where a monumental person in her life helped her change her story from tragedy to triumph. A family friend.
Yes, my brother Sam.
Your brother Sam saw you where you were. Yes,
I'll never forget. And I'm always so grateful for that moment, because I know without that moment, I wouldn't be here at all today, right? He noticed that I wasn't on social media, and then he called me and he was like, "Young, you good?" And I'm like, and I had just got out of the hospital. I'm like, no, I'm leaving the hospital in Baltimore. I think I was there for like 5 days. Maybe it may have been 2 weeks, but I was there for a while because they wanted to monitor my kidney and my liver and stuff.
I mean, organ complication at risk?
Everything.
Yeah, at the very least.
I didn't realize how much damage I was doing to my body, right? And so...
And 2 weeks or 5 days is remarkable to be in that state. So that's a miracle by itself.
Yeah, God don't play about me. And so he called me and he was like, "Look, this is what we're going to do. When you get off of work, gonna go to the gym. He made me this drink. It was the worst drink I've ever had in my life. He brought it to me. He told me to drink it, and he took the time out to come and to train me 2 days a week for almost 6 months. And in that time, I lost almost like 40 pounds within like 4 months. And you know, to have people like that in your life is very important. You know, the value. See, you can have people in your life for 40, 50 years and there's no value.
Absolutely.
But when you have people in your life and they provide value and they are an asset to your life at this point.
Yes.
Like Sam is an asset to my life, and everybody knows Sam. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's my brother. Like we didn't come from the same parents, but that's my brother, and I feel like it's thicker than blood. And so that moment changed my life, and it helped me to birth my soul business that I have now.
The soul business she started is called The Good Thick, and the inspiration from her brother Sam put her on the path to becoming an ambassador for fitness. At some point, you quit your job, right? Mm-hmm. You started posting and advertising your fitness business. In the first instance of you having a workout session, 40 women showed up.
Yeah, it was.
Take me to that woman.
Yes, it was such a great time. So I had been documenting my journey with Sam training me, and then I started doing some cardio stuff. I started taking different dance classes and stuff. I became addicted to fitness, and so I would post it and I would hashtag The Good Thick. Like, I'm just trying to get back to the good thick, y'all. I want y'all to see me. I want y'all to hold me accountable. And so I was having some difficulties at my job because, you know, I used to hang out with my supervisor when I was thicker, right? We would go to the bar, drink, you know, eat and stay there for hours.
And like, so I can't play like that anymore.
And so when I stopped that, right, and I would go to, and I would have my shawls on, but then when I started to lose weight, I started wearing my pencil skirts again, having my legs out, putting on my pumps.
You're on Stella's Got a Groove Back status.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And she would email me and she would tell me, stay in your office. You don't need to walk around, parade the office with that outfit on. Like, it just was, it was envy and jealousy and stuff.
Ooh.
And so I had to get out of there, right? And so I left. And when I left that Thursday, I put up a post on social media and 40 women came out.
Let's do a boot camp. I called up some people. Long story short, women showed up. They worked their butts off, married their bodies. So we decided to do another one.
And they trained with me without me being certified. They trusted me because I documented my journey. I told about the ups and downs. I told when I had bad days. I told when I would, you know, maybe have some chips one day or maybe have a burger and not, you know, salmon. You know, I was very transparent about my journey because I wanted women to know that this is not a fad. This is your lifestyle. So you're going to have days where you don't want to eat salmon all day or greens, you know, and you can have that in moderation. So I was very vulnerable and raw with it, and women love that. They love a story. They love a good story, right? When you're telling your business, because everybody want to know your business, right?
and in being vulnerable and raw, right? I know for myself, right, being on a fitness and healthy kick, I stay on that all the time, but there are some times where life gets in the way and I find myself binging. Yes. The guilt comes the next morning, of course. Yeah. And sometimes it's say, well, we're going to do 4 hours of cardio to make up for it so we can at least mentally feel better about it, right? Did you experience any of that?
I'm experiencing that now, actually. I'm experiencing the spirit of gluttony now because we got some things going on. But you know what I've realized about my journey and how God uses me in this fitness journey? God uses me in a way where it never ends, right? It never ends with me. There's always a hump that we have to get over. And so right now it's just another hump that I have to get over. And so I'm in that space now where I'm like, holy crap. My husband is in Jamaica riding 60 miles a day. He gonna come back strong with a flat stomach. And you know, and I'm gonna be looking at him and I'm like, oh God, let me get on this Peloton for 4 hours straight.
But that vulnerability and the rawness that's the realistic aspect of life, right?
Yeah.
And it makes you extremely authentic, right?
Thank you.
And makes you human.
Yes.
Because the idea is, even for me, you know, people tell me all the time that I make blindness, being totally blind, look easy. Yeah. And they say, well, I go to those corners sometimes where I'm like, you know what, God, why did you do this? Yeah. But it only lasts for a second, right? And so, and another part of your life, right, is you have a very popular podcast called Friends Who Smash.
I enjoy what has transpired in my life through my marriage.
and how it has shown me, right? Like the mirror when you're married is a totally different mirror when you're just dating.
Black man in love here.
Yes.
And Friends Who Smash obviously was birthed with you and your husband because you guys had an incredible story that it should be familiar to our audience of when you went viral.
Yes.
Surprise wedding, right?
Yes.
And after that, Sherrell and her husband went on a whirlwind of media appearances from Insider Edition to Good Morning America and beyond.
Lonely, love me, hold me, trust me. Lonely, love me, hold me, touch me.
Oh my God. Yes.
Take us to that moment of going viral, and then I have some questions around the decision that you guys made to be in control of your own Hollywood story.
Okay. The moment when we went viral, I didn't realize it until we got back to the hotel. And the thing about it is my husband and I were practicing. We were abstaining from sex, living in the same house, sleeping in the same bed before we got married. All of 2016. We got married on Saturday, October 1st. So when we got back to the hotel, we both like, oh, let's do it. We getting it in. Give me the good, right? But when we got back to the hotel, we got our phones back and our social media was blowing up. So we couldn't even enjoy each other. Like we didn't even have sex. We didn't even get intimate that night. Our phones were blowing up. We were getting requests, emails from that night. We got an email from Good Morning America. Like it was insane. And so we couldn't even enjoy really, like I couldn't even show him my appreciation for surprising me with the wedding because we went so viral so quick.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that became a frenzy over the course of an entire year. And,
Yes.
and some of the statements that you just said, there was a moment where you guys decided that, you know what, we're not going to do it this way anymore. In fact, you turned down lucrative opportunities in Hollywood for your story.
Yes.
Love has to be super strong.
Friendship and foundation and integrity, right? Those are things that are really important to my husband and I. Like we can be the brokest of broke, and people always call us crazy for this, but we're not going to let anyone tell our story the wrong way because we are both so vocal and open about who we are. Why would we ever sell our souls for a check, no matter what, right? Because we know that God is going to pioneer all of this. He's going to engineer. We're going to be good. So yes, we've turned down a bunch of networks for trying to change our story, right? And then when it's so funny because when people see reality shows that has come to DC, they're like, why they ain't choose y'all? I'm like, you don't know the story why they ain't choose us.
Yes.
Or why we didn't choose them. And so we decided to, like you said, create our own story. We wrote our own stage play. We sold out 5 shows with over 400 people at each show. We created our own podcast. We do all of our things together, and we are successful at the things that we do when we come together because we're both creative geniuses in our own right, and he's an engineer at everything that he does, my husband. And so we will never fall short because we're not going to allow ourselves to fall short.
Absolutely. Friends Who Smash is a podcast that focuses on relationships. Now, you guys have been touted to say that you're not relationship experts, right?
Yes.
But people do look to you for relationship advice, right? It spawned from obviously that viral moment of the wedding.
Yeah.
And even now. So as you guys, you don't tout yourselves to be experts, but you give people really good food for thought.
Yeah.
What was the formula?
We are relationship case studies, right? So we're constantly growing. We're constantly learning how to do this thing, right? But we also know that love isn't enough, right? And some people get so caught up on being in love and I love you, but that isn't enough because love isn't going to pay the bills. Love isn't going to love is it's an action word also. You have to choose to love. And if you're not choosing to love, then you're every day and doing the work, then what are we doing, right? And so my husband and I have had our downs where we didn't choose to choose each other every day, and so we felt it was well, he chose me every day. I was on my way out the door because of, you know, how we were talking about earlier, those triggers and things like that. But what we want to do is just provide healing in our community, right? And make it cool, like make healing cool, not a trend. Make it cool and make it, you know, a normal thing to heal within your relationship. You don't have to be fully healed to come into a relationship, but you have to understand that you have trauma, right? You have triggers, you have pain.
And I see that you don't have to be healed to come into a new relationship, but you still have to have a sense of self, right?
Yes, and accountability.
Yeah.
Accountability. You have to be able to have that mirror in front of you for when your partner says, hey, this is not how we should be doing this. You know what I mean? Because my husband does that to me all the time and I do that to him. And so our formula is so funny because you're the second person who's asked me that. And our formula is simple. It's just do the work, right? Just do the work and be so open to being accountable for your own stuff that you're open to do the work. Because if you're not going to hold yourself accountable and you're pointing the finger at the person and blaming the person, it's not going to work at all. You got to own your own stuff.
And you're the second person in my life who's actually said the phrase that love is not enough. Well, I tell you, your story is very interesting, and I know it resonates with a lot of women, especially from postpartum experience to hitting rock bottom. The alcoholism, unfortunately, is a common problem.
Yeah.
But the fact that you've risen above all of that, found some degree of sobriety, I think is inspiring. Where can everyone follow you, Sherrell?
All over. No, it's Sherrell the Trainer on Instagram, Friends Who Smash Podcast on Instagram, The Good Thick on Instagram, all over really. Sherrell the Trainer, Friends Who Smash Podcast, and The Good Thick.
And as a matter of fact, I'll put a bid here because I absolutely love fitness, right? I need to come to one of your sessions and you're going to show me what you do, right?
Yes.
And we're going to work out together.
Let's do it.
So we're saying that right here. Sherrell Duncan, everybody, thank you so much for joining us this time. Please also check out the photos of Sherrell in the Jenleeion magazine. She's graced our cover. Obviously, she is another example of tragedy to triumph. And we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Does anyone still believe in paradise?